Welcome to the Parenting Coach Podcast with Crystal. Over 7 years ago, I felt like I was stuck in this cycle of yelling and reactivity in my parenting that I did not want to be in, but I didn't know how to get out of. I knew how I wanted to parent pretty much exactly, and I'd spent hours reading books, but not finding a way to show up how I wanted to. That's when I started to turn inwards. My own inward journey was what my family needed. As I changed, everything around me changed. My kids' meltdowns decreased by 90% or more with no medications or therapy. I stopped yelling, sibling fighting became almost entirely non-existent, and I found that this change flowed into other areas of my life too. My intuition increased. I started to run my life and business in a very different way. If this sounds like something you want to, I can help. Join me each week as I share my journey, including the laughter, fun, hard times, and tears. Tune in for support, guidance, and fun conversations with my favorite experts, and really anything else that interests me too. Episode 3, questioning our subconscious beliefs. Children should be seen and not heard. Big money makes you evil. Negative emotions should be avoided at all costs. I make others mad, sad, or happy with me. I should shove down my ideas and intuition and listen to others that are older, wiser, and more experienced than me. Don't believe these anymore? Yep, me neither. But that doesn't mean that my subconscious isn't bringing these beliefs along and affecting me and my consciousness now. In this episode, we cover what beliefs you may still have that you don't notice on a conscious level, what questions to ask yourself to uncover your deeper beliefs, practices to help you move through and shift beliefs, how growth is stagnant when we stick with resistance versus being open, switching from this is not showing up for me to how is this showing up for me. I also talk about my 3-day women's reparenting retreat, one-on-one coaching with me, and the creation room. Hello, today we are going to dig into questioning our subconscious. We're going to root out where our subconscious maybe doesn't necessarily believe the same beliefs that our conscious does and how we even figure that out. And then I'm going to give you some questions and some journaling prompts, and it's going to be a very interactive kind of workshop style podcast episode today. So if you are not driving and you have the ability to take notes, I would grab a pen and a paper because this is going to be really powerful. I think that the benefit of coaching is that you're able to notice how you have subconscious beliefs that you didn't even know were there, that you didn't even know were affecting you. I'm also going to talk to you about how to dig that up, how you even know that there is something there or not. And I'll share some examples from myself, and I'll share some example from my clients as well. And I think by the end of the episode, you're going to really be able to tune into where there's subconscious beliefs keeping you stuck and how to move through them on your own. And I'll also talk about the benefit of coaching because having somebody else that can see that as well can be really powerful. So we'll talk about that too, which is what we do in our 3-day women's retreat as well. It is still open for enrollment. So if you want to join us, you can come. It's September 25th through the 27th. You can check that out at the links below. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts, it's in the show notes there, or go to coachcrystal.ca/the-retreat. Okay, so questioning our subconscious. I'm going to read a few subconscious beliefs that I wrote out in a post recently that I have noticed that I fall back into. So some of these I don't believe on any level, conscious or subconscious, anymore because I have intentionally done work for them. And some of them I notice them still pop up a little bit. And some of them I'm still intentionally working through right now because my subconscious is just not there yet. So I'm going to share a few of them and see if any of them land for you. And as you're listening to this, it's really important, instead of saying, oh, I don't believe that at all. Oh, no, that doesn't show up for me at all. I want you to be open. I want you to think about how it would feel in your body to feel open. And I want you to think about instead the question, how is this showing up for me? Or where is this showing up for me? I think that has been the path to my most biggest growth, has been my ability to be wrong, my ability to be open, my openness in seeing like, maybe I don't know everything here. Maybe I don't know what's going on entirely. Maybe there is something more that I'm not seeing. And as I've been open to that, it has made me so much more coachable, but also helped me to dig into what's happening for my own self. So this initial post that I posted on Instagram, I had the title of what I'm unsubscribing from, and also that you should join me from these unsubscribing, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what these beliefs are and see if you relate to any of them again with that openness of where is this showing up for me in my life. Thinking that I'm in control of others' thoughts and feelings, walking on eggshells around emotionally volatile people, or worrying about what to say or do to keep the peace. Not being all the way me because I'm scared it'll bother others. For me, this usually shows up as puffing myself up to be too much or taming myself down so that I'm less, but definitely not in that middle ground space of just being grounded and actually me. The next one, hot wiring connection by talking badly about others, sharing stories or information that isn't mine to share, just to feel that jolt of fake connection that others respond so well to. Focusing on others' downfalls and how they could be doing things differently to make themselves happy. I do this one a lot. I'm like, but if you could just do this thing, right? And you might not consciously do it. You might subconsciously do it. Again, asking yourself that question, where is this showing up for me? Not believing in myself and my big dreams, thinking that wild success isn't achievable for the ordinary person, thinking that humans are on a hierarchy somehow, and I'm at the bottom of the ordinary level, thinking that big dreams, big ideas, big innovations, and big change only come to the highly successful. Speaking of success, I'm unsubscribing from the idea that success is wealth, money, power, social media numbers, email open rates, podcast downloads, or having famous friends. Who you know. That success can't just be happiness, simple living, abundance, and healthy relationships, but that it has to be something that the world views as success in order to count. I'm going to share a few more that I came to me when I was thinking about beliefs that come from childhood. But first, I want to mention that it's one thing to consciously unsubscribe from these beliefs, but it's a whole other thing to bring your subconscious mind on board. And that is what coaching and self-coaching and reprogramming and subconscious work is all about. Is where is my subconscious not on board, even though I don't consciously think this anymore? I will give you one really clear example that comes to mind before I dig into some of these stories that came from childhood. Years ago, I was working on my frustration at one of my kiddos, and I was like journaling about it. And I was like, I just get so frustrated when he doesn't listen to me. And so I wrote that down. I was like, okay, I get really frustrated when he doesn't listen to me. And I was like, well, what's under that? Like, why am I getting so frustrated when he doesn't listen? And so I thought, well, it's disrespectful that he doesn't listen. But then I kept like digging deeper. I was like, what else is there? I know that there was something else there because I could feel that there was a pretty intense frustration bubbling up for me. And this was after a few years after I had gotten into coaching. So I knew how to question and like really dig into it. And as I dug into it, I realized that the thought really was, I'm not a good mom. Like if I was a better mom, then he would listen to me more. That it's actually my fault that he's not listening in some way. Another thing that popped up too was like children should be seen and not heard. And not like super consciously, but there was definitely this like section of me that was like, but he should just pause, and respect looks like then he would listen and he would do exactly what I said. And consciously, I no longer believed that anymore. I had read enough parenting books and done enough unlearning and relearning that there was no conscious part of my brain that felt like his behavior had anything to do with me and my worth as a mother, or that children should be seen and not heard. Like consciously, I did not agree with those, but subconsciously, this was actually what was bothering me so much and leading to my frustration. So I want you to again think about not, oh, this isn't coming up for me at all, or I don't believe this at all, or there's no, belief here for me. I want you to think about, where is it coming up for me? How is this showing up for me? So here's some ones that might have come from childhood. Again, came from an Instagram post that I shared about subconscious beliefs from childhood. I'm responsible for others' thoughts and feelings. For instance, if you think about your childhood, you may have heard this: you're hurting my feelings, don't make me mad, you're making me mad. If you do this, it's going to hurt my feelings. Like we definitely were related to in a way that helped us believe that we create others' thoughts and feelings and that we're in charge of it and we need to make them happy. Like our little 5-year-old selves were the ones who make our parents' anger just pop out of thin air, but it had nothing to do with them and entirely to do with us and our behavior. Another one, it's my fault that people get angry, sad, or worried around me. It's my fault. And I need to change myself in some way to make others around me more happy or comfortable. Anger is not okay. I need to be happy, kind, and loving always. Only good and happy emotions are welcomed. Only good and happy emotions are safe. In my body, maybe it's not even, doesn't feel safe to feel negative emotions, only happy and positive and quote unquote good emotions. I'm too much. I should be smaller, quieter, littler. And what part of me is too much? Me entirely, my emotions, my ideas, my dreams, my opinions. I'm not enough. It's not safe to just be me. I need to be more somehow or less somehow. Children should be seen and not heard, like I mentioned before. I should always respect my elders, which means listening to and doing what I'm told, even if it doesn't feel like the right thing to me. I should avoid my own thoughts, my own opinions, and my own intuition, and just listen to others. So, again, I want you to ask yourself that question, not this isn't showing up for me, but how is this showing up for me? What areas of my life might this be showing up for? And just be open to receiving any ideas or thoughts that come. The other thing that you'll note, if you can't get there consciously and you're like, no, I don't really believe any of these, I don't see how this is showing up at all, I'll let you know how it does show up. In that moment of frustration with my child, when I realized that it wasn't just that he wasn't listening to me, but under the surface, there was so much more. It was me feeling frustrated, me feeling dysregulated, and me trying to control him, trying to control his behavior, trying to change his behavior because I felt like it needed to change. When these subconscious wounds are still present, they manifest in big ways. They usually manifest in dysregulation, especially in anxiety, shame, and anger, frustration, rage. We respond in reactive ways that only feel good in the moment, but they aren't necessarily how I actually want to respond. And looking back, I usually feel even worse that I did respond in that way. That is dysregulation. Indecisiveness, that I'm looking outwards for the answer, that I second guess myself, that I doubt myself. I was very indecisive before I started doing this work. Overwhelm. Everything seems too big or too much for me to handle. There's actual physical manifestations of this as well. If everything physical is emotional and everything emotional is physical, and so many times we don't notice that there is that connection there. Years ago, I remember coaching a client. She was a doctor, and every time she was a surgeon, and every time she was in the surgery room, the OR or whatever, she was going to do surgery, she would always get this pain in her back. And she didn't know what was it about, and she kind of just mentioned it in passing, and we didn't even focus on the pain in her back at all. All we did was coach that day. We coached on what was coming up for her. And what was coming up for her was some worry. The imposter syndrome worry, it comes up for all of us. Just if you didn't already know this, it comes up for all of us, especially when we're chasing these things that we think are big dreams or really pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. Imposter syndrome is going to come up. And so for her, it was, what if I do this wrong? What if I mess up? What if I don't know enough? Maybe I don't know enough, right? All of these worries and fears. And so as we worked through those, at the end of the session, she was feeling so much better. And she was like, I feel so much more relaxed. And she messaged me later to say, I have not had that back pain since then. Like, it is entirely gone. And I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo that our physical things are connected to our emotional things, but there is actually research-backed stuff about that as well. And if you want, you can Google all of those things. But I have noticed that all of my emotional and physical stuff are interconnected. And so if we continue to ignore these subconscious beliefs, continue to ignore our dysregulated nervous system, over time, it's going to lead to things like autoimmune disorders. It's going to lead to breakouts. It's going to lead to allergies that just pop out of nowhere. It's going to lead to more severe depression or anxiety. It can lead to so much physical stuff within our system as well. And so that's another reason that I love doing this work. So here's some ways that you can kind of do this work. And then I'll share some examples of how it comes up for me in my life, which is fun that it just pops up all the time. Okay, so one question you can ask yourself in journaling is, what beliefs came from my childhood? So after listening to this, did any of these beliefs resonate with you? Do you feel like any similar beliefs came from your childhood? Maybe there was some other that you're able to actually get to on a conscious level, what beliefs came from your childhood. Another one is you can go to a specific age in your childhood, and any age will work. You can pick any age. I love to pick something between 0 and 8, but I also think it's interesting to do like teenage me as well. And you're going to write out your story as if you were that child at that age. So whatever story you feel like is there, maybe my 7-year-old version of myself feels anger or frustration. Maybe there's some happiness in there as well, but I'm going to try and figure out what was my story at that age? And can I write it all out almost from the perspective of that version of me, from the perspective of that person, letting all of the thoughts out, letting all of the feelings out to the depths that I really can. Because sometimes we kind of like pause ourselves because we're like, well, that's weird, or I shouldn't. We take our adult brain in with us and we just start like almost diminishing or condescending ourselves. And I want you to really just allow everything out to the depths of what needs to be let out. And as you do that, I want you to notice the energetic shift in your body, the emotional shift in your body as you're able to allow yourself to do that. Another way you can do this is you can write down an emotion, maybe an emotion that you have a tricky time with, like anxiety or anger or whatever, and you write out the story of that. What story would that say? What age does that feel connected to? And what we're going to do once we start to pull these beliefs up to our consciousness is that we're going to consciously start to question them. Is that actually true? Do I believe that right now? Where is that showing up for me? How do I show up in the world when I am having that belief? When I am within that belief system, how does that respond? How do I respond? You can also do some inner child work here. I would go back to, I have an episode called Inner Child Healing from last season. That would be powerful. I'm not going to dig into how to do that here today. And I think it was 2 episodes ago, but on this season, season 8, you can dig into the emotions, somatic practices to move emotions and work through that as well. Okay. 2 more little subconscious tricks that we can do on ourselves to uncover what's happening. I want you to write down, what do I have in my life that I don't want? So when I did this exercise, I'll give you an example. I wrote down, I want to have more Instagram followers. And so I was like, why don't I have Instagram followers? Okay, we'll dig into that next. So I want you to write down anything in your life that you feel like you don't want or that you don't have yet that you do want. Any of those things. So I wrote down everything. I talked about Instagram followers and email lists and podcast downloads. And I talked about clients and I talked about my business and I talked about my life and relationships. So I'm writing down all of these things. And then the second question you ask yourself is, if my subconscious was creating this, how is it keeping me safe? Or why is it creating this? If this is my subconscious that's creating that, why is it? So I'll go back to the Instagram example. It immediately came to my mind. I was like, I don't actually want more followers because I know what happens when you have more followers. I have lots of friends that have lots of followers. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of opinions. They get a lot of unkind messages. They get a lot of unkind comments. When you go viral, oftentimes you're going viral because of the negativity in the comments and the amount of negative comments that come up there. And it's happened a few times to a few friends of mine, and it's been really heavy for them. It's been a hard time. Usually they have to like log off Instagram for a while and just like chill out themselves because it's really hard to go through. And I immediately noticed like, oh, my brain doesn't actually want that. It doesn't want to have to deal with all that drama. It doesn't want to have to deal with people's negative opinions. It just wants to, in my mind, it was trying to keep me small, trying to keep me in this safe space where I didn't have to worry about that. So I want you to ask yourself that question. If my subconscious was creating this for me, whatever it is that you feel like you don't want, why? How is it keeping me safe? How is it a blessing? How is it a gift? Okay. Next thing, this one's really fun. I love to do these when we do them in person, either with clients or at the retreat or whatever. This one is, what are the things that bother me about other people? You can think about somebody specific, or you can just think in general, like, what are all the things that I wish people would change in the world? Like they should just be more punctual. They shouldn't be so, their houses shouldn't be so dirty, or maybe they shouldn't complain so much, or maybe they should apply for jobs more. Like, what are all the things that bother you about other people? And you're going to really go to town and write down as many as you can think of. And then this kind of gives it away now because you're going to listen to it and you're not going to do it. If you're listening to this and you're doing it right now, as I'm saying, as you're doing it, then pause and then come back to this part. But secondly is, what do I see in me around this? How do I notice those things that I don't like about others are showing up in my life for me as well? What is the correlation there? Because so often the things that trigger us and bother us about other people are things that bother us about ourselves as well. And this can be such a good way to break into our subconscious mind and to kind of see what's really there and what's happening under the surface. I'm going to give you a few small examples. I was visiting a friend in Singapore and we went to this nice little beach restaurant resort, and Singapore is pretty swanky. There's some really beautiful places. And I noticed myself be uncomfortable, and I kind of dug into that discomfort. I was like, what's here? What's under this discomfort? And so much of me felt like this isn't for me. Like I'm not a person who has a lot of money or has a lot of wealth. And so I shouldn't be here. There was some amount of like, I don't belong, and it had to do with wealth. And I noticed then that I was really putting humans on a hierarchy, just like I mentioned at the beginning of this call, right? That was one of those subconscious beliefs, is that I'm putting these humans on the hierarchy of based on wealth. If they have more wealth, then they must be a better person. And I don't fit in because I'm not. Because there's better and less better people on this hierarchy of wealth. And again, if you were to tell me like, this is what you believe, I'd be like, no, That's whack. I for sure do not believe that. But subconsciously, when I was open to noticing my discomfort and to asking myself, being radically honest with myself about what was happening, I noticed that that was coming up for me. Another one is in launching my offers. Sometimes I'll offer something like I'll be running parent school, or I'll be launching a retreat, or even I'll just be writing an email to my subscribers about one of my offers. And I notice that I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling stuck energy. I'm just feeling terrible about it. And I'm like, ugh, why do I feel so terrible? And if I really dig into that, it's because there's something within me that is seeking external validation for my own enoughness. Now, again, this is very subconscious. This probably does not seem like it on the outset. On the outset, I just want more email open rates. I just want more people to sign up. I just want more people to respond, whatever it is. But underneath it, it was because I was seeking something. If I get more clients, if I get more responses, if I get more engagement, what does that mean about me? That I'm a better person, that I'm a better coach, that I'm more successful, right? It's digging up how am I connecting my worth, my value as a person, my innate soul. How is it connected to this extrinsic thing, what other people say or do, or how they respond to my offers? That one comes up often in business. So if you're a business person, even if you're not a coach, even if you don't work online, notice how that's coming up in your business and in your life. We do this as parents as well, right? Make our kids' behavior mean something about me, just like my example of frustration at my son. Another one is money. Man, I just dug into for like a solid year. I joined my friend's program called the Money Manifestation Movement with Jamie Berman, and I just dug into my money beliefs all the time. There was, so much there. So much more than I even thought was there. There was money in worth. There was money in the scarcity, like I need more, I have to keep it. There was money in scarcity leading to me not even looking at my numbers or not even caring about money or numbers. There was so much under the surface when it came to money. And a lot of it was passed down generationally with thoughts and beliefs that I consciously don't believe anymore at all. And so it was interesting for me just to do that work and to notice, like, what is my relationship with money? What is coming up for me around money? What do I think about money? Open up my account, look at a number, look at a different number, look at a different account. How do I feel about that? Why am I making that mean something about me? What beliefs do I have about money and about my potential for money and what money is? And now I see it so differently. I see money as like this physical object. Like, how could a physical object change my worth? How could having more of a physical object change me or my worth at all? It doesn't. And I also see it as a way to energetically kind of create. So if I want more abundance in my life, abundance in time, abundance in healthy relationships, and abundance in fun experiences, I can use this tool of money for good. I don't have to use it for bad, because I had all these examples of people that use their money for bad. And I was like, well, I don't want to be bad. And like, if I have a lot of money, somehow I'm going to be bad. So there was a lot there under the surface with money as well. And another one I'll mention is rest. Rest was huge here as well. Like anytime I wanted to just do nothing, anytime where I just like didn't even want to work for a month, or I was like, you know what, I'm not going to launch an offer right now, or I'm just going to go hang out on the couch with my kids, or we're just going to, watch a movie tonight or whatever. I noticed that my subconscious mind was like, no, productivity, outcomes, to-do lists, check off the things, do all the things. And that it had a hard time resting. And the subconscious belief under there for me was that self-worth was tied to productivity, that I needed to show some sort of outward accomplishment, outward success in order for me to feel better about myself, that I couldn't just rest. And now I think of rest as the greatest rebellion against this success society that we have found ourselves in. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick client example. I'm going to compare and contrast two different clients that I have / had. And I'm not going to use their names or anything or any like specific information about them. But one is a mom that's a little bit older mom and dealing with relationships with her older kids. One is more of a middle-aged mom dealing with kids that are a little bit more like junior high school, going to graduation age. And both of them essentially came to me for the same thing. Both of them want to change the relationship with their kids. But one came to it in more of an energy of, I want my kids to change. Actually, probably both of them did in the beginning. I want my kids to change. How can I parent in this way? I can't parent in the way that I want because of my kids, right? Does it sound familiar? Does it sound more like my story? I'm pretty sure I shared this in the podcast just a couple episodes ago, but very much, I need something external to change in order for me to be able to show up in the way that I want to as a parent. One was very resistant to looking inward at all. very much, no matter how much we talked about it over and over again, very much them. They need to change. They need to change. They need to change. Because of that, there was no openness. There was no growth. There was no learning. There was no change. With the other client, over time, realizing that her responses really were connected to this subconscious stuff, realizing that she had some personalization going on there. We already mentioned that today, but that is making my child's behavior mean something about me. That she was like, wait a second, like there is some worth stuff happening here. And again, not on a conscious level, but like subconsciously, she was noticing, where is this coming up for me? And as she did, she started to respond to her kids differently. She took more time to sit with them in their anger. She took more time to listen. She took less time for lecturing them. She spent more time spending time with them. And she was a homeschool mom. And she, over time, really shifted things in her relationship and was able to homeschool in a way that felt so much better for her. Her kids started learning more. She felt better about their relationship. Everything became better for her when she was willing to dig into her subconscious beliefs and what was underneath the surface instead of clinging to what she felt like she consciously believed. Again, going to my last episode on resistance, right? How willing am I to change? How open am I to change and to growth? Where can I find this in my life instead of it's definitely not here? And as I'm open to where can I find this in my life, that is when the change and when the growth happens. So I hope you were able to get some subconscious reprogramming done as you listened to this call. And just note that some things are pretty tough to do on our own because so many of these came from wounds back in our childhood or past traumas or whatever, where we felt alone, where we felt disconnected, where we felt unloved, where we felt unsupported or unseen or unheard. The solution to that is to feel seen and heard and loved and connected. And sometimes it's hard for us to do that on our own. And just the presence of somebody else who's loving and supporting us and guiding us through that is already healing in and of itself. That is why I love the 3-day women's retreat in person. That is why I love one-on-one coaching, or I love group coaching, where we all get to come together and do this same work together. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to coachcrystal.ca/coaching and find my openings. In September, they'll be getting a lot more busy because I'm going to be going back to homeschooling again. And I won't have as much openings for one-on-one sessions, but I do have a group called the Creation Room. It is still August. You can still join us until the end of August. And this is the work that we do. We notice what's coming up for us. We coach on it on a conscious level. We coach on it on a subconscious level. We do emotional regulation work, and we share stories and hear other stories. And in that sharing and hearing, we're able to change. And also the 3-day women's retreat is all of this, but jammed together in 3 days with a lot of rest and relaxation still in between. But it's very intense. It's very healing. It's very supportive. In my mind, it's super fun. I love coming home and feeling so much better and so much shifted instead of just like hanging out on vacation. I'm like, this is the best kind of vacation. It really is, because it will change your life. And it will be a change that will last a lifetime. It won't just come and go. It really will stick with you. So thank you for being here. We will see you next week, and hopefully I will see some of you at the retreat. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, I would love for you to help spread the word by getting this message of support and guidance out to as many people as possible. So text it to your best friend or tag me on Instagram and share it. Leave a review, rate it, subscribe it, or follow on your favorite platform. Send me a DM on IG letting me know which parts have impacted you or what you'd like to see on future episodes. We'll see you next week.